Great. Now it's 5:30 p.m. I'm now open the Lacey Commission on Equity meeting on September 25th, 2025. And oh, I'm sorry. It's right, it's August. Sorry. I didn't realize I said September. Oh my gosh. All right, so roll call, who's on the meeting? I see everybody except Commissioner John. Okay. And we have quorum, so we can start the meeting and land acknowledgement. So our youth representative, Karen, will read it for us, please.
We, the city of Lacey, are on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of the Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian Tribe and Squaxin Island Tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today, who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial, and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of disposition, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that the community members read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854.
Thank you. Right now, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda, previous meeting minutes and consent items.
Make a motion to approve the agenda, previous minutes and consent items.
Second. Great. Then it has been moved and second to approve these items. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, items have been moved.
And just to confirm, Chair, the motion carried?
Yes. The motion carried. Okay. Public comments. Anyone in the audience or in online? Okay. Well, then we can go on to inspirational item. Commissioner Clay?
Yes, often we have some really inspiring words from different people who've worked in the area of social justice and whatnot. Sometimes I think it's good to understand why we're doing this work. So I have an article on the NPR. Smithsonian artists and scholars respond to the White House list of objectionable art. So the White House newsletter posted an article that calls out some of the Smithsonian Institute's artwork, exhibits, programs, online articles that focus on race, slavery, immigration, and sexuality. That includes works from the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture, the Portrait Gallery, and the National Museum of American Latinos. The administration, there was a list of objectionable content that came from the White House to the Smithsonian museums saying that they were to submit their current and future plans for exhibits, social media content, and other material. The institution's director, Lonnie Bunch, was told that he had 120 days to comply with what the administration was calling a comprehensive review in order to bring the Smithsonian in line with Trump's cultural directives ahead of the country's 250th anniversary celebration. The administration has directed the museum to replace divisive and ideologically driven language and replace it with unifying, historically accurate and constructive descriptions. Smithsonian said that they were committed to remaining free from political and partisan influence. So the NPR talked with some of the artists and people that had exhibits that were going to be affected. One of them was Rigoberto Gonzalez, who had a painting there. He said, the White House list reminds me of the degenerate art exhibits in the 1930s of Germany. The Germans gathered modern artists they deemed to be not within the context of their ideals. And Gonzalez said, adding that he believes the current administration has an agenda, and clearly they do not see their agenda in my work. Also, Ibram X. Kendi, who is the author of How to Be an Anti-Racist, he says he's not surprised. Those of us who study racism, who encourage the rigorous research to try to explain what racism is, have been typically described as activists, as opposed to what we are. Scholars, intellectuals using research and analysis to try to present the truth. He says, so it's a way to discredit me and distract from my scholarship and continuously try to make me look like a person who should not be taken seriously. He says, frankly, I could see this White House not wanting their supporters to take my work seriously, because I think if they did, they might not take the White House seriously. Kendi's work guides the readers to actively deconstruct racism, unlearn racist ideas, and recognize racial equality. That type of transformation, Kendi says, and learning is in direct conflict to the administration that's trying to convince the American people, particularly white Americans, that they are under attack and that they are being harmed and that racism doesn't exist, or that they are the primary subject of racism, says Kendi. So some are working very hard to mask and erase the truth, but the truth will win. So that's why we keep working.
Thank you.
Sure, before we move on, can I ask if there is a individual who'd like to take this, well, September inspirational item?
Yeah, great idea. Ready?
What was that?
September, anyone volunteer to take inspirational item for September? Okay.
Is that our joint meeting?
I will make a note that is our joint meeting, and since we are hosting, it is an element that we could integrate into the agenda if this body so chooses.
I'll do it if no one else is speaking up.
Okay.
Done it a couple of times lately, but I'll do it again. No one else.
Okay, I'll do it next month then.
Okay, whatever.
Okay, so that is done. And then we can move on to business items. First one is Lacey Veteran Services Hub updates. Ryan Manani. Great, thank you.
Good. Bless, thank you. Hey, good evening, I'm Brian Wananen, I'm the new Veteran Service Hub Coordinator, recently retired from active duty after 28 years. I'm actually still on active duty for another 30 days while I'm on terminal leave. So we're gonna go over what the hub is, what it provides, and kind of some data for the last couple years of the hub based on our client intake. Here's kind of what I just discussed, our topics we're gonna cover this evening. You can stop me at any time if you have questions, or you can.
This
wait
is
till the
where
end.
we've been to, right? That place.
Yeah. So for the purpose of this brief, we covered 3 calendar years 23, 24, and 25. As you can see, calendar year 24 had a significant uptick in the amount of clients we saw. There was a reason for that. The way the data was inputted wasn't kind of in line with what we expect the policies and procedures to be. And now that the city's running it, we're looking at them, updating our process and building in accurate policies and procedures. So that data will be more in line with probably previous years, 23 and earlier than that. For unique clients, we had 7,221 when you combine calendar year 24 and than so far in 25. What a unique client is, that's basically tracking their initial core visit into the hub. So think of it as that's their first time. So in the last year and a half or a little more, we've had over 7,200 brand new clients to the hub. Now, we know some of that data is not accurate because calendar year 24, they weren't tracking information properly. And then moving down to transportation, for calendar year 25, we've had 160 clients transported already this calendar year throughout Thurston County to medical appointments up to American Lake VA for a total of 6,113 miles with an average of 38.2 per trip. So it's a lot. That's all done by volunteers for the transportation. So this it might be a little tough to read, but this is our client intake or client visitor locator, excuse me, for calendar year 25. This basically tells us where our clients are coming from. So we know we had 2,342 clients so far this year that come visit the hub, excuse me. We're only able to accurately identify where 1,319 of them are from, and that's due to the way data was inputted. They might be homeless, they might not have a home record, they might not, they've changed some of their data and it's not what's in our initial intake for them. But of that 1,319, 1,314 come from Washington State, and I believe it's 82.7% come from Thurston County, 27.1% come from Lacey proper, and then 20.6% come from Olympia. So we are definitely helping people within Washington State and predominantly Thurston County based on the data. So moving on to the volunteer update. So we looked at the 2 years, 24 and 25 here. So calendar year 24, there was 2,452 hours provided by volunteers in the hub with only 7 volunteers. Early 25, they did a push, before I was hired, they did an advertisement push, and then Michelle Chavez was able to get the numbers increased to 25 volunteers. And they've already done 2,123 hours. That's actually gone up 300 hours since I briefed the council on August 5th. So we're seeing the numbers continue to rise. Some things our volunteers do are they expand our community outreach, which we're kind of reinvigorating because it was on pause for quite a while. We have some upcoming events in September that we're attending on JBLM as part of our community outreach program. They provide the free van shuttle that we've spoke about previously to medical appointments, and then they do the front desk reception coverage. So here we currently have 14 providers that work in some capacity out of the hub. These ones specifically are our permanent hub providers. They may be there one day a week, they may be there one day every other week, or they may be there every single day. We've increased that number from 12 when I started 7 weeks ago to 14. We added South Puget Sound Community College, as well as the Veteran Services Vocational Rehabilitative Specialists Incorporated to the program. I also had a meeting last Friday with St. Martin's University, and they're gonna start having a representative there every other week. So we're continuing to expand our providers, and we have plenty of space for them.
You want me to ask after your presentation
You
or?
can ask whenever.
Okay, I'm just wondering, do you have any need for business, like, do you have business owners walks in there?
So we're still writing a policy on that. Like I said, we're updating our policies and procedures and all that stuff. There's not a policy in place we try to keep it nonprofit currently. So they have to, as long as it doesn't cost the veteran, active duty service member or their family anything, we allow them into the hub, but we kind of limit business if it's for profit. So example, we had a veteran service that wanted to put a vending machine up in the hub, but that's charging those veterans that are coming in there predominantly for homeless and near homeless challenges. We don't want to put something in front of them that entices them to have to purchase stuff. So if it meets that kind of threshold, then we're okay with it. But like I said, we're working on that policy to kind of define what really is a provider. All these are nonprofits that are inside the facility right now. It doesn't cost the veteran a single thing.
Right, I was more in if you have the veteran businesses coming in there for any kind of resource, like I could put in there how to do business with state type of thing. But I mean, if you don't have that kind of clientele, then I don't see that need.
So Brian, maybe just for some background, Chair Sauer works for the state of Washington and provides business resources across the state. And so I think one of the things I hear you saying is, maybe getting some more resources for community members who may have businesses.
Especially the veterans.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we're open to anything that helps a veteran or active duty service member. But understand predominantly our population that comes in there are looking for a job or trying to prevent themselves from being homeless. But anything we can do, because we do have active duty that come down there and they've got a lot of next steps when they transition from service. So we're open to absolutely anything. Thank you for the question. So these are some initiatives I put in place based on speaking with Shannon, and then just my observation over the last 7 weeks. We've got 4 main categories for our initiatives: volunteer and provider expansion, transition from service, increase advertisement, and strengthen our outreach events. Inside each one of those categories, there's organizations that are nested to help us get after some of those goals. So like for volunteer and provider expansion, we're working with the JBLM Volunteer Corps to get them to try to expand our volunteer service and capacity so we have more volunteers. Because our volunteers it is a predominantly elderly population, so we want to kind of move that number in the other direction. We're working with better opportunity for single service members as well to help them maybe want to give them volunteer opportunities so they can come work at the hub, as well as some other agencies that are out there. Transition from service, I'm going to start attending the JBLM job fairs, and we'll have a booth set up there along with some of the other events that occur on JBLM, like Hire Heroes. They're having a big Hire Heroes USA event in the middle of September that they'll have a booth set up over on the McCord airfield in the hangar that's over there. So we're attending those sort of things. Increase advertisements. Some ideas we're looking at is Pandora, Spotify advertisements, talking about what the hub is, what's the eligible client that can come in there, as well as the Lacey TV 77 and the some van wraps and outreach program. And then lastly, it's to strengthen those outreach events. And we've got a bunch of them scheduled over the next 30 days. We're just kind of waiting on some of our products to come in to make it a little bit more professional event. On the left side of this, you see what's called the Courage Cares. This is a program that I helped develop before I retired on JBLM. It's a resource for leaders to help their service members and their families, and it's open to veterans as well and retirees, help them identify resources that are available all throughout Pierce and Thurston County and up into King County. And what it's designed to do, the left side is a leader tool, the right side is all the resources, and there's tabs, you can click through and everything. But what it's designed to do, it's designed to give leaders or that individual going through a crisis some tools and resources that are out there to help them get through it. Lacey's Veteran Service Hub was not on this program when we developed it, and we had hundreds and hundreds of organizations. It wasn't on there because JBLM didn't know about it. Well, they do now. We're on like 3 of those tabs that are in there. I got it added. That was the first thing I did when I took over, was get it Lacey Veteran Service Hub added to it. So you can see it right there. In fact, that's one of them that's under transition, right? Because that way their service members know they're transitioning from service. They can come down and talk to a VSO. They can come down and talk to our WorkSource employees or even housing if they have housing questions. So. And then finally, these are some things we're working on down at the hub, specifically training and development. We're working through our space use agreements, kind of developing a relationship with the providers so we know who's going to be there. We're establishing and training the staff on policies and procedures. That's pretty much been everything I've been doing over the last 7 weeks. Every chance I get, I write a new policy, a whole bunch of them. And then we're updating and training the staff on the emergency action plan. It's in its final stages. And then part of that, I worked with Lacey PD, and 3 weeks ago, they came out and did a risk analysis of the hub to identify where our vulnerabilities are so we can incorporate that into our emergency action plan. We're also going to try to get the staff defibrillator and Narcan training because of the population we deal with. It's important that we have people able to respond to that crisis. So we're working through that challenges right now. And I talked to the emergency manager last week, the city emergency manager last week, on how to get that done. And then modernizing our appointment and sign-in process and data tracking. So the way it works right now, if somebody needs an appointment to see a VSO, they have to call in at 8 o'clock in the morning. And we have a set number of appointments for a couple of different VSO providers, Veteran Service Office providers. And that's it. So there's no predictability for the client and no predictability for the provider. So what we're working on is developing a system to where we can put it on the webpage. It'll have to be it would have to be fluid because we can't put them all online because a lot of our population that we deal with is elderly, so we have to have an analog kind of manual style where they call in and we have some appointments for them versus some that can go online and just schedule it that way. So we're kind of coming up with a hybrid way of doing it. And then lastly, we're building a 2027, 2031 strategic plan for the hub. Any questions?
Yeah, I have. So hub is in your name. So if someone contacts the hub, do you have resources in all directions for someone who comes to the hub? Say, I have a housing issue, I have a substance abuse issue, I have this, and you marry them with resources? You have a list of resources that.
So yes, we have a list, but we also have providers that's that list of 14 providers that is
Okay.
there. And so
In-house.
there's tons of, so health gets a little tricky. We have telehealth, we have things like that, but anything else that, whether it's educational, whether it's employment, whether it's housing challenges, we got HUD Vash that operates right out of the hub with us. They have 3 offices that they take up with about 4 or 5 providers there on a rotational basis. We have Thurston County VA that's in there that's helped with housing challenges. So, and then if we can't meet that need, we have a massive, massive list of contacts that we can push through. Washington State DVA is a perfect example. Like they have a lot of other things that they can do for a veteran or active duty service member as well. So yes, sir.
Thank you.
So you mentioned that this is gonna be managed by City of Lacey now. How was it not before?
That is correct. So when we first started this program, and this predates my time at the city, but this started in early 2000 teens. And it was started as a pilot program to really see like what is the need and what can we bring to the community. And so over time, it's had different kind of periods of growth. And so now we're finally to the point where we know this is going to be a service that we're going to be providing the community for the foreseeable future. And so we brought Brian on in-house to make sure that we can provide services to our veterans and active duty service members and their families as best as possible. And I just want to highlight, Brian, in the last slide that was up here, is showing all of the things that he's been working on, and he has just jumped right on into all of this work and has been taking it and really leading it. And had a great handoff with Michelle Chavez, who I know you all have met before previously, who helped make sure that we were continuing to operate over the last couple of months. But we're well aware that we think this is going to be a service for the long term, and so we were ready to bring it in-house.
So the City of Lacey program is there, the hub was already there, and they're gonna do what they need to do, and the City of Lacey services also being part of that whole hub. Is that right?
Yeah, so what I'd say is, so Brian is the coordinator for the hub, and so really making sure that we can bring all of the service providers together that we just listed and make sure that we're working properly. So we don't provide necessarily direct services as the city. What we are here is to make sure that there's a space for those service providers and that they work effectively.
Yeah, the only service that I would say the city provides is the transportation piece, front desk piece, and we have a computer lab, which I didn't discuss, where there's, so we have a computer lab that the city manages as well. Those are the 3 services, I think. And the computer lab is open to anybody in the community. They don't have to be a veteran. or
No,
active service
I
member.
also noticed that 24, you have only 7 volunteers, and then the amount of work, the client you saw is almost like twice.
Yeah.
And then you have 25 this year. And so did you increase more service now because you have more volunteers, or?
So I don't,
Only half a year.
so 2024's data is not accurate.
Okay.
That's, yeah, it's not accurate because of the way data was being inputted into the system. So while yes, the numbers do look high, if you look at the comparison between 25 and 23, it's a much closer comparison based on where we are now and where we expect to be. We're still gonna be lower than 23, but we're in the ballpark. As far as the volunteers, their schedules run from 8 to noon, noon to 4. So they were trying to cover those shifts with just 7 for calendar year 24, which is a little unrealistic.
So I appreciate you coming today. But what do you foresee as a relationship with the Commission on Equity? What can we do for you, with you, as you moving forward?
That's a great question. I'll be honest with you. I think if there's things where you think we need to be at, events that are important, we're more than willing to come out there and support them, especially if it's veteran focused. I watched the last Commission on Equity from August. Was the one that Peyton briefed you on, the veteran one. I don't recall the date, but I watched it. And if there's questions regarding veteran population in the city of Lacey and how we can better affect the Commission on Equity, I think that's where we would best be able to work together at. Just build it. This is an initial thing for us as the city of Lacey. So we just would build it from ground up. And what do we expect to be? I'm comfortable making it anything, honestly.
So Commissioner Brown, maybe I'll add a little bit to that too as well. And I know Brian highlighted Peyton talking about the outcomes of the last community forum. And I think that was an extremely helpful event for us to kind of understand, what was going on in the broader veteran and active duty community. And so, one of the things that we knew to some degree, but I think was really reaffirmed with that forum was communication and how we get the word out and how we engage with the community of hearing from different peoples and different backgrounds of what that looks like, what they're looking more for, was really insightful. And so what Brian's picking up some of the marketing and seeing how we can get our name out there to get knowledge about the hub. Those are great things for, you all that helped kind of pass on to Brian and as we continue these efforts. So I think efforts like that and continuing to do that outreach and engagement is going to be really great moving forward.
Yeah, and I would just offer him the opportunity for him to attend or have someone attend any future, community events that we have to hear directly from the people and just to say that you're in the room. That could generate some questions from various, segments of the community as we have those forums.
I can see your coordination will, add consistency to this and help it build and then create the trust and people, telling each other about it and whatnot. I have a question. Do you have any idea about support for trans service members who are being asked to leave the military?
They would have the same veteran status as any other service member. So whatever a veteran is offered, they would get the exact same service.
But
So
I
they-
mean, particularly for that kind of support where they're either losing their pensions because they have to leave early or, or maybe dishonorable discharge or whatever.
We can definitely
Whether
look,
there's
we can
any-
definitely look at that, but
Anything that's specific.
there's nothing specific right now for the hub, but we can definitely look at that.
I'd think about that.
I say you mentioned the South Puget Sound Community College partnership. How do you guys engage with them?
So-
And to preface it, I didn't know about the Veteran Services Hub. I actually found out by word of mouth while I was attending right there, and it was right there. So I'm just curious if that bridge has been divided or like patched over since that division back in the day. It was like 2019-ish.
The division, so the hub, the South Puget Sound Community College Military Affairs Coordinator comes in once a week on Thursdays. And he's there to support veterans that come into the hub and provide them educational opportunities. If they walk in and he's like, hey, I'm here to talk, we'll push them to whichever provider happens to be there that day. If it happens to be South Puget Sound, it's South Puget Sound. As far as a relationship, like we've just started to repair a relationship, which I was unaware that was needed repair.
Pretty non-existent
Yeah.
from my perspective. Yeah.
But the military affairs guy and I were coordinating to try to get the South Puget Sound Community College Art Department to paint a mural inside the hub. It's something that we recently, as of last Friday, he and I sat down and talked, last Thursday, we had a meeting and we discussed it. So the relationship is only gonna grow and get better from here. But to your point about, you didn't know about it, that's one of the biggest, I understand that completely. Like I developed a program for JBLM where there's hundreds and hundreds of providers through 3 counties and it wasn't on there. Right? Because nobody knows about it. So that's something that I've been charged to do, is to get the word out there however possible. And we start with our outreach events. That's the number one thing, in my opinion, that we start getting the word out there and then we start working on the advertisement or simultaneously. But like Shannon said last meeting, I'm a staff of 1. It is just me doing all this. So I don't have a staff. I used to have a staff of 200 Now I have a staff of just me, so,
Welcome to
Yeah.
the civilian world.
yeah, I understand, so,
Are you Army or Air Force?
Army, yeah.
Good guy.
yeah.
So one, maybe just a quick addition to that is that our relationship with South Puget Sound Community College has always been really, really good. They're actually we're tenants of the community college, and so we're on their space and we've enjoyed working with them. We've, leased space there. We've gone through a giant tenant improvement of really remodeling that entire building. And we continue to work with them. And I think Brian's just picking up that relationship and taking it to the next step of making sure that we have connection at multiple levels across the organization. So we like them and we work
Yeah,
really well with
definitely.
them and we hope to continue to build that relationship.
Yeah, I've interacted with several of them, and it's nothing but positive.
Did you say they are tenants of
No,
the city?
we're a tenant, so we're on their campus. Not the Lacey Veteran Services Hub is located
right,
on
yeah,
the
that's true.
community college's
Yeah, I
campus.
knew that.
college
Yeah,
campus.
there was 3 people walked in today thinking we were part of South Puget Sound Community College. So, yeah,
Yeah.
But welcome to your new job.
thank you, I appreciate
You
that.
have a lot cut out for you. One of the things we heard in the listening session that was primarily designed for veterans, we heard from several veterans of color
Mhm.
about the challenges they face in the community, treatment, discrimination, uh, those kinds of things. And I see you have a 2731 strategic plan. So as you grow, as you're able to add staff or whatever, how do you anticipate responding to veterans of color when they walk into the hub relating to you and your future staff, these instances of discrimination and mistreatment and indifference and that kind of thing? Do you anticipate the hub being a place veterans of color can come with their concerns and their issues, and what might they expect as a response from the hub in those,
Great question. So the first thing, they're gonna be treated with respect, the utmost. Since I've been there in the 7 weeks, we've had many different races come into the hub and receive service with the utmost respect. So I think it starts there, like understanding what they've experienced is way different than what maybe I've experienced, and being empathetic to that and providing them with whatever services are out there and that we can find for them would be of the utmost importance to us at the hub. I have a saying that you have to show genuine concern for soldiers. Well, now I've transitioned to that to this current job. It's now I have to show genuine concern for whoever my client is that's walking through that door. Because if I don't show genuine concern and I don't take their problem on as my own, then I'm not relevant in my current capacity. All right. So I have to truly value that everybody that comes into that hub, regardless of who they are, what they believe in, is deserving of respect first, and then providing them the best possible service we can when they walk through, and hopefully they leave satisfied and they know we're in there working for them. You have no idea how many times we get veterans that come in there are just so appreciative of everything we're doing for them.
and the concerns weren't about their treatment in the hub.
Right.
It was their treatment in the greater community is what was being expressed. Male, female, Army, Air Force, they were several military branches and they were agreeing with and reaffirming each other's, treatment out there in the community, that as veterans and as people who serve the country, out there in the community, they weren't finding the kind of respect that non-veterans of color would receive. So it wasn't at the hub level. It was as they move out, looking for housing, looking for jobs, looking, where these racial indifferences and acts of discrimination were being perpetrated upon them. So in the future, is the hub anticipating being a place that could try and help break through some of those? Because that's a community barrier and issue. So just to make sure you understand, it wasn't what they were experiencing at the hub and their services, is when they were in the greater community, the kinds of things that they found themselves experiencing, and no respect that they had served the country and deserved to be treated better.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the great things about having the position too in the city is that we have this communication back and forth of kind of what are the experiences and what are we hearing and how can we evaluate programming, partnerships and events that could be at the hub or outside of the community. So it's really good to have Brian on board to be able to think about what does the future look like? How do we want to plan with that? How do we take the information that we're learning through this body or other events to make sure that what we're providing the hub is not only, providing services, but is also out in the community and helping continue to improve the community for everyone.
And I would have.
I was gonna just finish by saying, as this community continues to grow, a lot of that growth is coming from veterans of color. And so when we talk about being welcoming, when we talk about being inclusive, some kind of way we've got to recognize and acknowledge that it's not happening in all instances out there in the community. So how do we make, the greater community realize that if we say we're gonna welcome all, we gotta mean it, and how we're gonna show it? Or to say we're getting comments and complaints that many veterans aren't feeling welcome in the community, and what are we gonna do about it? Just so it's an acknowledgement so that it's going to be more of it, not less of it, because there are larger percentages of the veteran, not larger, but a large percentage of the veterans that's coming into the area. So that's why I raised the issue. Something we need to be cognizant of and aware of and be as inclusive as we can.
And I would think the hub's relationship with the VA as well, because if they're in the community facing discrimination in housing or whatever, that their rights, that VA could intervene and become a part of. So between the city, the hub, the VA, that the resources and the follow-up, the follow-through, the making sure that the laws are being followed, as it pertains to veterans. Would be a very close relationship between those three.
I know it's just one of you, but you were mentioning about different events. Are you looking just within this map area, or are you looking, because I do see where you have numbers statewide, so do you anticipate spreading up to Seattle, Bremerton type areas, reaching out to armories or chambers, not just here in Thurston County, but I think reaching out to those different chambers and being able to go out, maybe even talk at some of their forums, just to kind of get the word out, because you're gonna find a lot of people who are former military there as well. And then the other thing, coordinating with other like-minded nonprofits outside of the state, because people may not stay here. When you're looking at the amount of people who are getting ready to transition out, they may not stay here in Lacey. So are you looking at having some type of, hey, in this state that, you may be hitting, here's some resources where you can start and have something comparable to here where you're getting ready to go to?
Yeah, that's actually quite easy. There's already a program in place for that for the active military that I can easily tie into our program and make sure they're aware of it if they come to us asking for that information. But like when a service member currently transitions from JBLM to, say, Fort Drum, New York, they have what's called Military One Source, and it has a lot of information that's already available to them and links them up. So we can be a catalyst to provide that information as well, but there's so many available resources to the active duty service members when they go to transition from one installation to another. For that particular question, and could you re-ask your first question again? I apologize.
Sure, so reaching out beyond the South Puget Sound,
Yes,
going up to,
yeah.
there's gonna be veterans and there's gonna be active duty people, not just around the JBL area, but you've also got the Naval up in Oak Harbor and Bremerton, and then you've got the Camp Murray, which is kind of extension of JBLM, but then you've got National Guard and active duty up in Seattle too, which I would assume a lot of unhoused people are up there as well. So reaching out into those areas. I know you're just one person, but how can you what do you foresee that going forward?
So
reaching out?
I just attended the Veteran Service Conference out in Yakima last week. And next year, if we go, it'll be with a booth. It won't be to go to actually sit in the forums. It'll go to set up a booth and establish connections and relationships there, because as I watched it, it was much more beneficial to be out in the lobby and build those relationships as opposed to sitting in some conference room. So that's one method that we've already put in place to kind of get outside the Thurston County area. Our relationship with JBLM is going to grow because I know everybody on that installation currently, everybody. So I have no problems reaching out and asking for, hey, can we get tied into this or this thing? Can we get tied into this event? Can we be part of this? I'm on the protocol list, so I get emails when there's something going on in the installation. So that's another method that we're doing it. As far as going up to Seattle, I'm willing to go to, me or my outreach team go to any event as long as it provides a benefit to a service member that's going to utilize the hub services, then I would go to absolutely anything.
I think, a couple of things to keep in mind, and you've already pointed the commissioner, is we have a limited resource base though too. And so, kind of our focus area is providing services to folks in Thurston County. Because at the end of the day, there's only one Brian, and the service providers that we work with have a limited amount of appointments themselves to see individuals. So if you're talking about our VSOs, if you're talking about our legal support, our financial support. And so we are trying to, focus our kind of limited resources to make sure that we are helping community members here in Thurston County, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't connect or try to do engagement, but we just know that we have to kind of balance that with what's available. I'll also say, the Lacey Veteran Services Hub is very, very unique. There's not a lot of hubs like us around the country. There are a couple of hubs. And so to the best degree possible, we are happy to answer questions and provide information to any, organizations or groups or other government entities that are looking to set up similar types of resources. So that way we can pass on the best things that we've learned and maybe some barriers or some obstacles that we've overcome. So that way they don't have those same kind of issues. And so helping that way also to help increase the resources, even though they may not be the Lacey Veteran Services Hub.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Okay.
So Brent had a staff of 200, so surely Lacey can give him a staff of 20.
Call me bougie because I had a drive. That's a bougie.
Last question on my part, your 6-point plan, you've got the 2027, 2031 LVSA strategic planning. So that's something that's going to be coming on board, a 4-year plan that you want to have in place by 2027. Okay, but no
That's the
such,
goal. That's the
Pardon
goal.
me?
Yeah, that's the goal, yes.
okay,
Yeah,
but no such plan exists at this point.
no,
Okay,
yes, there's nothing that exists
Okay.
currently.
thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your time. I appreciate the
Thank you.
questions. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you.
I'll leave this for
Take
you.
it for a second. Thank you, Brian. Really, Brian has been doing a lot of fantastic work, and it's only been 7 weeks, I believe is the case.
Today's week 8, so
Yeah.
week 8.
So an incredible amount of work has gone on at the hub already. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So something unrelated but related is, I wonder if we could think about something similar to immigrant community. Resource center right here. That, English as a second language, not really knowing where to go. Something that I would like to make a request for city to look into and possibly make it happen.
Cultural hub.
I mean, you do some like Lacey, spring fun fair and things like that, but beyond something like.
Something more permanent.
Structures.
Well, is there something out there that they can, because it sounds like this was already out there, they just kind of brought them in the
Yeah.
fold and expanded what they had. That would be something to do for that too. I had also brought up,
Think about-
have made mention of the tool library, and now I'm looking up at heading up something like that now and getting a nonprofit board put together and trying to get it together. I even have somebody that is looking at becoming a fiscal partner with me so that I can kind of intern underneath them to kind of get started and then go from there, so.
Yeah, we do have APIC, let me see, ACRS, different organizations that are already kind of doing that, but not in this capacity where
Mhm.
you actually have facility staff there. I mean, it's just more structured, more systematic. It's known, something like that would be so wonderful. So even, collaborating, partnering, doing something would be,
Yeah.
I just wanted to suggest.
Highlight that Thurston County also just has a general resource hub as well. And so that is available to the community if you go online and find it. And the idea is trying to provide one hub to provide just general services. I hear your point very well of just, having that kind of coordinated grouping. And that's what's really worked well with Lacey Veteran Services Hub of, before, if you were a veteran or an active duty service member, you had to go to multiple places across the county, and that presented
Just wrap
barriers.
around, yeah.
Yeah, and so really just having that one spot, we've found has been a very successful model.
Mhm.
Yes.
All right, so we are gonna move on to community survey. Result update, and that is with Kepner. There you go.
And tonight, just for a little housekeeping, when you are done with your presentation, if you just want to stop the share.
Okay. Alright. Handouts here. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Ty Keltner, I'm the Communications Manager for the city. Met pretty much everybody here at one point or another through our many different activities that we do. Today, I'm going to present a little bit on our community survey results. And these are fairly fresh, so I'm quite excited about these. We're still going through the data, but I'll give you a nice glimpse of things here. Just a reminder that as background, the goal of the community survey is to collect sentiments about the city and related things. And this was laid out in our communications plan. This was started in 2022, and so this is one of the items in that plan. And that's a big deal that this was accomplished, and now we have some results that we're moving through. So to do the survey, we contracted with a national polling company called Polco. And they do surveys for communities across the country. And they ask every city the same questions, so we can compare ourselves to other cities fairly easily that way. Community members were randomly sent a postcard in the mail, and that's how they were able to take that survey. I have a example of the postcards here. I'll send this around too if you want to look at it. But note that the information is in English, Spanish, and Korean. And there's a QR code right there on the front and also a web address on the back. And that would lead people to take this survey online. And they would, the company would follow up with a paper version too for those who could not take the survey online as well. Here's where it went. The map on the left shows the districts within the UGA. However, the survey only went out to actual residents in the Lacey area within city limits. So the district boundaries were used to just compare the different parts of the city. So you can see our districts there, but within the black lines, that's all of what the city limits is. And so that's where all the surveys were sent to.
Not the growth area.
Correct. Here's our timeline. We started this way back in April and started collecting data right around May, beginning of June, thereabouts. And just got our report of our survey results back just a few weeks ago now. So a little bit about how this was done. There were, as I said, 3,000 postcards that were sent out. And a lot of those were returned because, you know, you have a house that's vacant or someplace it's undeliverable for whatever reason or another. And so of the remaining 2,880 some of those, we got about 292 back. So that's about 10%. And Polko, as the company, only needs a rough number to get a statistically valid survey. And by getting that 10% that they wanted, they were able to make sure that this was a valid survey. Also, want to note that, remember, there's about 60,000 residents in Lacey within the city limits. Of that, there's about 24,000 households. So if we have about 3,000 postcards that go out, that's about an eighth of the entire city, which is actually, you know, that's a lot of postcards, a lot of people. When we get our 10% back from that, that's enough for Polko to have the results that it needs. I do want to draw attention here too to the margin of error. There's a 5.7% margin of error there. So that means that's a little bit of a buffer on the results. So if you're thinking of what that result could be, it could be anywhere 5.7% higher or lower. That's a little bit of the variance that we have in those results. And Polko does a good job. There's some heavy duty statisticians at that company, so they run things through pretty well. I'll talk a little bit about the benchmarks here. So Polko, as I mentioned, sends this survey out across the country. So there are 500 communities roughly that get this survey. And so they have all the results of all of those surveys from those 500 communities. But there's also a custom benchmark, and what that is some communities that we picked out that are similar to us. So we chose about 17 communities that are similar in their population or their income level or their geographic region. We chose Washington, Oregon, California. So not only do we have these 500 communities across the country, but we have a smaller sample of just communities that are like us, which I'll call all our peer communities. So with the questions that were asked, there are actually 12 different categories that people were asked about, and every one of these categories has many questions. I'm not going to go into every single one because it is fairly robust, but I'll reference those here in a little bit. But with those categories, there are some things that folks were asked about that relate directly to the work that we do, city services such as parks and community design and roads, things like that. And there's also questions that relate to our work that we're part of, but not leading. Things like joint animal services, the library, things like that. Some of our partners. And then further, some of our other partners for things that really are not what we deal with, like power, gas, utilities, healthcare, that kind of thing. So there's a wide range of questions in this survey. Some of the takeaways here, I'll look briefly at the results and I'll try and give you a broad snapshot, and then we'll go a little more granular into some of the answers and things. But for starters, our community scored really similar to our peer jurisdictions, with several areas outperforming the average and also highlighting other areas for improvement. So the most important thing, though, is that this is the first survey that we've done. So this sets our benchmarks of what our community is like and something that we can shoot to excel in the future. But like I said, we're very much in line with the national numbers and our other communities that are like us, which is really great. We also want to make sure that we are improving our communications and that we have a lot of good work that we do here at the city. We want people to know about that work. And with that, there's a lot of things that are influences on our numbers. So it could be a personal experience that somebody had. It could be an interaction that they read about in the paper or in the media or something like that. But there are also things that are not pertinent to us, like things that are happening nationally that people will think of, and they'll answer a survey question about Lacey in that way. So there's a lot of variance there. Polko actually put together a little bit of a summary of some of our key findings too. And they found that they stack things into a couple of ways, what we call high performing areas and also focus areas or opportunities. One thing they found is that public transportation was viewed very highly in our community, which is great. They also found that the natural environment is viewed very positively too. That's, Washington's a very beautiful place, so that's not too much of a surprise. But specifically, nearly 8 in 10 residents viewed the natural environment favorably. So that's very good. And public transportation scored very highly, and specifically bus and transit services were some of the highest rated things in the entire survey as a whole. Some other things, parks scored very highly as well. So 8 in 10 residents gave favorable ratings to the quality of our parks and recreation opportunities here in Lacey. We have a great park system. That includes the city parks, but also walking trails and fitness opportunities, things like that. And also people scored their neighborhoods very highly. People really like the place that they live. So 8 in 10 gave positive remarks to their neighborhoods, and I'll touch on that a little bit more in some of the future slides here. Some of the opportunities we have is to look at our perceptions of safety in our community, even though they are still very similar to the national numbers and to our other cities that are like us. Affordable housing, also something we want to look at. Honestly, that's also a national issue too right now. And of course, we always want to be improving our public engagement and highlighting the things that we do well here in Lacey, but also how we are tackling those tough problems that are facing our community here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over those 12 different categories, but remember that every category's got a whole bunch of questions. I'm not going to go through every single question in every category. We'd be here all night to do that. But I will just give the overall for all 12 of those categories, just to give everybody here a rough idea of some things. So the first category is governance, and really Lacey scored well in governance. That's not too bad in numbers. The numbers that are most represented are the positive numbers. So you see there the excellent and the good. Those are considered the positive numbers, and I'll touch on those more in the course of the slides here. Our economy also scored very favorably overall compared to other places. Mobility, as I touched on before, was one of the higher rated parts of our survey. And mobility includes things like commuting and bus service. It also includes walking and biking. And specifically public transportation scored very, very highly.
Would that be like road condition, driving?
There was some of that too. Condition of sidewalks is included, condition of roads is included. Let's see, so community design. So that includes some of our zoning issues, housing areas, community layout, parks, green spaces, that kind of thing. Very highly rated as well. Our utilities, we don't have control over a lot of the utilities here, but water, gas, electricity, internet access, people are very pleased with those things. Those scored highly as well. Safety, these numbers are a little more even. So you see the good and the fair are very close there for safety. This has to do with how residents feel safe and secure in their neighborhoods and their greater community, police presence, that kind of thing. And there's our natural environment. Of course, Washington, very beautiful state. Lots of wonderful things here in the Lacey area as well, besides the fine views and the clean air and the lakes and things. Let's see, looking at that, that's 77% positive or so. So that's very good. Parks and Recreation also scored very, very highly. I mean, we've got some great parks here, highlighted by the RAC and soon the Great Curio Park as well. So parks did very well. Health and Wellness, I had scored well as well, but I want to draw attention to the fact that this also includes a question on quality of life. What is your quality of life? And that was rated very high too, so. I'll go more into detail in that in a moment here. Arts, culture, and education. Not all of this is within the work that we do here at the city. There's a lot of arts and cultural things that are done by our partners and other organizations, but still scored very, very well.
You're saying that scored very, very well? Could you back that one up? Education and
So we're at
So
53%.
9%,
59%.
59%. That would be considered very, very well.
Well, compared to the fair and the poor, yes. That's
That's
31. So we're looking at a 69 to 31.
It's just how we describe it as very, very well.
Yeah.
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 And I think maybe too, like Ty was mentioning earlier, it's also, you know, we're using this tool as a comparison to understand kind of, we're taking kind of perceptions, you know, across the board and whether, you know, what that's getting informed by, but we need to kind of say like, where are we right now? But then also how do we compare? So I think when Ty was talking about that too, is we are on par with kind of our comparable jurisdictions in that area.
Yeah.
And that's certainly not to say that, you know, we would ever be, you know, satisfied necessarily with a, you know, 50, 60% score. We're always going to be looking to find ways, how can we work with our programming? How can we work with our partners? How can we work with our other community members to make sure that we are looking to find ways to increase those scores in the future? And that's part of where we're getting this weather mark. Where are we right now? And then how can we take this information moving forward?
Well, I completely agree with you. It was just the way it was described as doing very, very well. And
Yeah.
those numbers don't add up to very, very well for me. When we're combining education, arts, and culture together. But when you add fair and poor, there we are with 41%. That's almost, you know,
Catching it.
I understand what you're saying, Shannon. But it looks like an area of concern that we've got to really work hard at getting much better before we can say the survey told us we're doing very, very well
Well,
in this category.
also, and what's not shown here is what Shannon alluded to, is that we are compared to all communities nationally, and we're also compared to our peer communities, the 17 communities that are like us. And we score within that range too. We're considered similar to both of those different groups, not just for this category, but the majority of other questions across the entire survey, which is very interesting.
So for me, like true question would be that, so when you say excellent, good, I may feel that way, but what does that mean actually? What are our scores? How many kids are actually going to college, or what's their score? How many, something like that is more tangible to me than giving objective or subjective view of, yeah, I think it's good, B plus, B minus is good, or C is good, you know what I mean? So I mean, so we could look into more in depth, but to me, just have that in mindset, it's just somebody's.
Might be a really
Yeah.
good category to look at the individual questions and how they went. They might, it might have a balance, you know, show where the
Yeah.
discrepancies are or the concerns are.
We can also drill more down into the data, which I'll show here in a second.
So hold on a second, before we move on, Ty, and I think that's a really good point, Chair Sauer, and that's one of the things we recognize, there are limitations with any survey that you take, right? It is based on kind of your experiences, and it may not reflect kind of, like you're saying, other data sources. And so I think that's how we wanna approach how we use this survey of, we're getting kind of an understanding of what the community feels. And then we can come back and we can take those opportunities for future engagement, but also taking a look at, what are some improvements in our own programming or working with partners. But you're spot on, there is kind of that perception, and then there may be, say, like you mentioned, some other data set that shows something else. And so we want to take this information and kind of use that as a tool, one tool in the tool belt with other data sets.
How often do we do this?
Every 2 years is the goal. This is the first one, so we'll see this again in the future.
Kind of just aside from this, if anyone's interested more in like education information, something I'll look at is every year they do, the North Thurston District does a survey on like test scores and all that stuff, and you can find that on their website, I'm pretty sure. So that's interesting to look at for that.
Let's see, so also we have overall inclusivity and engagement. These numbers are a little bit closer too, as you can see. This has to do with how folks feel connected to the community and engaged with the community. And there's some civic metrics in here too, and how involved they are with things that happen in our community. So the question is, what is the nexus between the survey and our DEIB strategic plan? And the way that this works here is that, remember, the DEIB plan has a lot of different things that we want to establish in it. And this is our first step at establishing those benchmarks, as Shannon and I were describing. So specifically in the DEIB plan, there are 34 different questions that can be answered by the data from the survey we just did. And those are spread among the 3 different categories. If you remember the DEIB plan, there's a communications category, which is the pink one here. There's a programs, policies, and services category, which is the orange one. And there's the livability category, which is that off green colored one. So a lot of these categories have questions that have goals that are attached to them. Things like the percentage of people doing something or rating something positively needs to increase. So that's what's in that plan. So for example, under the orange here, the program policies and services category, there's an item called the rating of overall direction the city is taking increases, and our scores are consistent across demographics. So the way that we get that answered and we establish the rating of the city, the direction of the city is through our community survey, where there's a question that is, what is the overall direction that Lacey is taking? How do you feel about it? And in this case, what is that? 60% of respondents feel positively about that. So either good or excellent. Now the national benchmark, remember that's those communities across the country. And you see here, it's a little bit cut off, but this first column here is how we compare nationally on that question. And you can see it's similar. And then this other column here is how we compare to our peers, those 17 other communities I was telling you about earlier. And we compare similar to the national numbers and also to our peer numbers at 60%. So that answers our question. That's part of the DEIB plan that way.
I think just moving the bar down to the teal spot, I think that may help just kind of show, I think it fits there. And we can move it back up, but just again, to show what Ty was.
And what would it say if it was lower? Would it say like below
It would say lower.
or, okay,
And there are some
or
other,
above?
yeah, there are some other categories that it says lower or higher, or there's one that says much higher is the other all about that we have. And again, that came through the public transportation category, which people really liked.
Well, if we're hanging around the 60%, we have some work to do.
Well,
Even if it's similar to anybody else, that
Mhm.
should, we take that into account, but we shouldn't pat ourselves on the back for that.
so yeah, it's really up to the perception of the
We
decision
can get
makers.
the numbers and
Yeah.
actually know where we are and where we want to go.
You can see, this is just a sample of some of the other questions that are in that governance category, but how do you feel about the city being honest? How do you feel about treating all residents fairly? Overall confidence in Lacey government, the value of services for the taxes that you pay. So these are all the range here. And whether you think that the numbers are high or low, all of them are actually rated similar to our communities across the country and similar to all the other communities that are similar to Lacey, similar to us. So interesting that way.
Is there a way to get access to those questions, or if we, as a group, decided that one or
wanna
two,
look at all the
one or
data
two of
things?
these,
Yeah.
you know, are really important to us, then could we get the
Yes,
drill down?
yes, I'll get to that at the end
Yeah,
here.
oh, okay, great.
So one more thing, maybe just to add on this slide that I just want to point out, is that this, and Ty's mentioned this several times, this is a survey that is done across the nation. And so just recognizing that governments, especially city government, looks very different depending on, what state you're in, even maybe what, side of a state you're in, it could look very different. So just to highlight, some of the questions of like, taxes and taxes paid to a city. Well, that could look very different in another state, just kind of the breakdown. And so part of, what we're already highlighting, that Ty's highlighting, is kind of education to and opportunities for future engagement to tell, a little bit more about, how we do things here. Because, I think sometimes we don't want to get lost in taking a look at this, is that there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of differences between communities that one survey, just doesn't highlight and finesse. And so I think going back to, Chair Sauer, as you were pointing out, there's a lot of other things that we need to look at and deeper dive with this survey. And so just for awareness that even though we have the comparables and we have the national, just to recognize that there's a lot of differences between jurisdictions and cities within that.
Yeah.
So when we see that column with similar all the way down, do we accept that as okay? Are we similarly mediocre? No, I'm
Yeah.
not being facetious
Yeah.
about it, but I mean,
That's it.
you know, we equal the national average of what, but the national average, particularly a topic like education, mediocre. So do we settle for mediocrity simply because we're similar to the rest of the country?
I think it
We
gives
do.
us a place to start to get better,
Oh,
not
I
that
agree.
we're-
This is the
yeah.
baseline. This
Yes.
is the starting point.
And that's the reason why we do this, is because we want to always improve.
Exactly.
And that's what it says in the DEIB plan too. We want to see
Yeah.
our current rating and we want to see it increase year after year. One thing that also is positive here is the overall customer service by Lacey employees. So I always like that number. I think that's nice. Always room for improvement, but it's at the top of this list. So folks here definitely care about the community and service. Okay, so in partial answer to your question, looking at some of the data, you can again, this is just a sample of the results. There's a lot more that we can drill into. So you can take any of those 12 categories and break it down by other different metrics. So there are sub-demographics with each one. So if you want to see how parks rated amongst women specifically, there's data for that. If you want to know how people rank the quality of life in Lacey, depending on where they live in the city, we have data for that now. If you want to know how people rank local education, arts, and culture, depending on what type of a house they live in, we have data for that. So you can break it down by these different categories, which is really.
That's what this sheet is.
Almost there.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and almost there.
Okay.
So a little bit about some of the demographics. This is an overall view of the demographic data from the survey itself. I understand that's a little bit small to read, but I can explain that we've got a breakdown of age, we've got a breakdown of area people live in, race, sex, housing type, all sorts of different questions of who folks are. And the results here are weighted and unweighted too. This is more in the methodology, but you can see how people answered, and then once Polko came in and did its statistical work, how those numbers shook out. So it became a statistically valid survey. So with that, looking at what's on your sheets here, I've compiled this into not every single one of the 34 questions in the DEIB plan, but just a sample of some of them. So you see here, we've got the question that comes out of the DEIB plan, which is on the percentage of individuals who receive satisfactory public information. That's what the pink is. Versus what was answered in the community survey, which is the green. So in this case, there's two different questions that kind of answer that question. So we have public information services and informing residents about issues facing their community. And you can see those scores there. What I did is I put the overall score first. And then if you want to see it broken down by sex, race, age, and area that people live in, you can see how folks answered those questions.
Blue shading is.
Yeah, so I pulled out the lowest scores, anything that was 10 points lower, and I made it blue just so you can easier compare it. And then anything that is 10 points higher or more is put in that gold kind of cream color. So just for everybody's interest. So in our programs, policies, and services, overall customer service, there's the overall scores, nothing too separate there. But you see how we have the question in the plan, which is the rating of overall customer service. And we want to see how that increases with each subsequent survey. And in the survey, the question was answered, overall customer service by Lacey employees. And we've got the percentages there. And then you can see how that's broken down by men and women and so on. So rating of how community members are treated equitably. I think this is a really valid question for this body here. You see we don't have a direct answer to that question, but we do have two other questions that were asked that are similar enough, and we can get to a good answer for that. So valuing and respecting residents from diverse backgrounds and treating all residents fairly. So with that, we kind of get to answering the question there. What I want to highlight is on that bottom one, treating all residents fairly. So overall, the score for the entire city for everybody is 54%. And looking at how it goes across the gamut there, we see people of color, that's only at 35%. So that's significantly lower than the overall assessment.
So 35% of the BIPOC feel that they're getting equitable treatment.
If considered, if they're being.
And the perception of whites is higher than usual. Yeah.
Also interesting to see how it's different across where you live too. I mean, Central versus Hawkesbury that's a huge difference.
Central, is that like this kind of area, the Midtown type of area? Where's Central?
Why is that?
I'd have to list the map again. That is the
Where we're at right now in
Is central.
this city.
Okay.
Yeah, including the Midtown area.
Do we have any idea why Meadow Thompson Place is so low? I mean, it's significantly low.
Well, we're also, that area is also unincorporated, so they may not get a lot of like, like there's a cutoff. We just expanded kind of some of that area, but then also some of that area, most of that area over there is unincorporated, Lacey.
So
They-
yeah, if
they
you go
weren't in
back
the
to
survey, though.
the slide, you'll see there's kind of a hole, right, like to what you're talking about, and there's two slivers on either side that are incorporated into the city of that area, and then you're right, in between them is a large area that is unincorporated Thurston County. That large area in between was not taken into consideration as part of the survey results. But I also think it's really important to highlight, and Ty's kind of shown like the big picture of kind of margin of error. And so that's taking the full data set. Anytime we start boiling down to smaller and smaller data sets within the larger data set, that margin of error can increase. And so, when we're talking about, the Thompson place and kind of looking at how many survey results we got from that, I think it's also something we need to take into account of what was the return rate there, who did we hear from? Because as we slice and dice this information, those statistical margins of errors can increase, and so we should really take that into account for any considerations about how to apply this data.
Same thing with the central. 'Cause,
Yeah, and with that, you have to think about, and this is where the dangers come in extrapolating reasoning out of surveys is, what if something happened in this area and it affected people's mindsets, but it didn't happen in this area? There's all sorts of variables that can come into play and people picking one thing or another. And that's not just area too, that's age, that's your background. I mean, there's all sorts of things that go into how you would answer a survey. Let's see, so the rating of the direction of the city, how we feel about the direction that the city is taking in the future.
That's interesting. They're at 63%.
In ages,
Yeah.
perception by age.
Yeah, again, you start to speculate, well,
Yeah.
what happens with people and why are they thinking this at this age, but not at this age? Yeah. This is one on safety. So this is a really interesting comparison, I think, because we have a positive rating of police services. Now, we threw three questions into that to try and answer that. One is the quality of police services, ratings of safety in the neighborhood, I thought was really interesting too, and also safety in Lacey's Midtown district. So you see in that middle row there, the rating of safety in your neighborhood, how would you rate how safe you feel in your neighborhood? It's at 94%. So that's very high in comparison to really any other number. But with your overall safety, looking at the safety in Lacey's Midtown district at 69. So you can see there's a big difference there. So what that says is that people, as I mentioned earlier, people like the neighborhood that they live in. They enjoy their neighborhood. They also feel very safe in their neighborhood. And that's different than the numbers we see for the Midtown district. So you can see the perception there of where people feel safe and where they draw that conclusion from. So that's one way that we can draw data and draw conclusions from what we've got.
Oh, and the male and female, that's kind of an interesting flip flop.
Yeah.
Huh, yeah.
It's gonna take some analysis to
Yeah.
understand.
People of color feel safe.
Yeah,
And younger people. Yeah.
so you can see we could pour over this all
I
night, just
know,
kind of how
right.
we
Really interesting.
things, yeah. Our park system rates very highly. Everybody loves the park system. Nothing too statistically different there. City-sponsored events. So we don't have anything that asks specifically about city-sponsored events, but we do have some things on opportunities to attend different cultural events and arts events in our community. So that was kind of the best question that we had to answer that. Rating of city creating a welcoming environment. So the way that we answer that is through two questions, one on making all residents feel welcome. And also one on openness and acceptance of community towards people of diverse backgrounds. So you can see the numbers are lower here with people of color in acceptance versus our overall numbers. People in lakes, though, that's very high in lakes. So.
Can I ask, with the central, this is just residents, you weren't asking like businesses or anything like
Correct,
that?
it is just sent out to households, yeah.
Now, we don't know the numbers, right? Like how many respondents in lakes and meadows and, because we're not just talking about one person in meadow or two people in lakes, you know what I mean? That they consistently, based on their some sort of a anomaly thing.
Yeah, I think there's a way to.
Out of two hundred
look at the data.
sixty, some
Yeah.
people, how are they distributed? I'd like
Yeah.
to know.
So you can, and Ty showed this slide earlier, and you can take a look back at it on the presentation slides. But it does provide kind of the demographic breakdown, and as part of it, it tells you what the unweighted percentage was. So if you have 288 survey takers, and for lakes, to answer your question, 16% of the respondees came from lakes. We
Okay.
can easily kind of derive the ballpark number. But then it also provides you, well, what is that community representative of the entire city? And so for lakes, as an example, it's 14% of the entire community. So you could see that it was just slightly above the respondent rate of what the population is. And so they've actually weighted that and taken that into account to make sure that it's as reflective as it possibly can be. So that data is going to be available as part of the final information, and you can get a snippet of it in the slides.
Okay.
And then to wrap this up here, there's a question about the DEIB plan about rating Lacey as a great place to live. And we answered that question in the survey too. Well, how do you feel about Lacey as a place to live? Overall, 80% of people rated that positively. So that's really a nice sign. And lastly, the rating of overall quality of life, 73% overall rated quality of
I
life
just
that
don't-
way.
No, 86% by BIPOC community said overall quality when it was like 30 something
Yeah.
before.
Mhm. Yeah.
But women like it better than men.
Mhm. Yeah, and you can see by geographic location here too, where people live. I mean, there's all sorts of other things. So I'm just showing you the sex, race, age, and area. But again, there's other metrics that we can look at, like number of children in your household, or whether you live in an attached home or a detached home, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, you can spend a lot of time with this and the equity tool, a map, and yeah.
That's right.
Quite interesting.
And I think that's a really good point of, you could spend a lot of time, and there's also multiple tools, and making sure that you're taking into account multiple data sources and
Yeah.
getting a fuller picture.
Yeah.
Because one tool isn't gonna give the full picture.
Yeah.
We talked about before, there's other data sets that should be taken into account that kind of show where we're, maybe, perception versus what's actually the results. And so I
Yeah.
think those are definitely a good comment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just as surveys take in, averages and things like that, you also want to take in the average of lots of surveys and things too, to get a more complete picture.
In a, what are we, 55,000,
60,000.
60,000,
Yeah.
less than 300 survey,
Mhm.
but what, out of 3,000.
I think the important number though is the household number, because that's 24,000. I mean, you're not gonna
Yeah.
poll every child
Yeah,
in the
right.
community or anything like that.
But, yeah.
So next steps from here, I am gonna keep working with the staff here at the city and keep pushing through our kind of internal review of the results. Like I said, that there's 34 different questions from the DEIB plan just in itself, and so I'll go through all the rest of those. I just gave everybody kind of a sample here today. And then there's, you know, all the other questions for the survey as a whole. So I will work with staff to make sure these are compiled and that we get our baselines that we want and everything. Excuse me, and then we'll present some more data to the city council sometime around the end of next month. That's the plan for now.
What about the greater community? How do you know, people took these surveys and they're probably wondering how like this.
Yeah, we are looking at some different things that we can do to get to publicize the results and give people the look at the community that everybody was polled on. So we kind of have to get through all the rest of the results first before we can sufficiently publicize everything.
Ty, if you don't mind just stopping the share.
Yeah.
And I think to add on to what Ty was just saying there, so he mentioned, you know, we're gonna go finalize some of the information and the data, take it to city council for a full kind of presentation, and then part of that too will be engaging with the community and getting that information out and getting access to all of the dashboard features, so that will come. And we could also certainly lean on you and use your help when that's available to make sure that it's getting spread out in the community.
Yeah, so that answers the question you had before is looking at the data and can you look at the data? Yeah, there's a dashboard where you can go and do all that sorting and things that I was doing. And once we move through all the different things we gotta do to make that available.
So I heard this is first time and there's a plan to be redo every 2 years. So why is it done first time? Why did we not do before?
That's a great question. And I'll just say, you know, that's one of the things we identified as needing another tool in the tool belt. And so as part of the communications plan, when we created this, and I can't believe I'm saying this, 5 years ago, we identified that we wanted to do something like this and then move forward on a regular interval so that we could see, are there things that, you know, we're really helping enhance our services? Or are there things where there's areas of opportunity and to kind of consistently track that over time? So I can't answer for why we didn't do this, you know, 20 years ago, but we did identify this as a need just to make sure that we can get another data set to help look at how we're offering things and working with our partners. And then also just broadly for the community.
And then this is, as Shannon was saying, just one tool. There's many, many other tools and all of those can be put together and looked at by all the decision makers to say, hey, you know, I think these numbers are low and we should get these numbers higher. Or I think that this area could use some work and that's, you know, generates the ideas on what to do about one particular issue or another, which also dictates where funding goes and all sorts of things. So there's a lot of direction that we can go next with these results.
What
Yeah.
determined that interval of 2 years?
That I don't know. What?
Yeah, so it was kind of a debate and also look at other cities and how they were doing this survey. What we didn't want was we didn't want it to oversaturate where we're always asking community members. But we also wanted to see, are there things that we did within that 2-year window that had an impact or maybe we changed? And so we don't know if that's the perfect interval, but we determined that that's kind of a good size of being able to see if programs, policies, endeavors, initiatives may have an impact. So we'll see. Maybe it needs to be less frequent, maybe it needs to be more frequent, but we're trying to balance that oversaturation with getting meaningful data.
Another interesting part of that though too is I looked at some of the work that Polco does and they show charts of different questions and metrics and how they go up and down over the course of the different years. Now, of course, this is our first one, so we don't have that yet. But in the next one, you can see an increase or a decrease. And also, I noticed that 2 years is something that does happen in other communities too. So you can see how their numbers go around every couple of years.
And in that vein, you listed Oregon and California, which having been from California, it's a completely different ballpark there. It's much more expensive. How many of these comparable cities or communities are actually in Washington?
Let's see, do I have that handy? There was quite a,
Cause it was what, 17?
Yeah, and I think what I was looking for that, part of the issue is, not every community takes this one survey. So seeing what was available, what had a very similar kind of population size, built environment. So obviously, we're kind of a newer developing community, so matching that up. And then we also looked at income levels, but you are spot on, Commissioner. Like when we were talking about earlier, different states, different communities can look very different. So always keeping that in mind.
yeah, I apologize. I do have that electronically. I don't have that printed out to show.
We'll get you that information.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about income, if any of that were factored into the different demographics that you guys were looking into as well. But I don't think so, not when it comes to comparing the area, but like California, Oregon, Washington area is not necessarily the different housing or areas of.
Parts of the city,
Yeah.
yeah. I think you're right. I'm going mentally through all the different metrics right now.
Yeah.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah, cause I'm like looking at the numbers as we were talking about, UGA, and I'm looking and I'm like, okay, more older homes, the central area, a lot more unhoused, and just kind of thinking just it myself, which probably is diving too deep into things, but yeah.
I don't think that's diving too deep. I think that's what every one of us rationally thinks as we try and assign a reason why a number would be low or high and
Yeah.
try and find that out. But I think the best way to find that out is honestly through meetings and groups like this where we can talk about the results. Someone will say, oh, that's probably because of this thing. And someone would say, I hadn't thought of that, you're right. And I actually went over some of the results with Veronica, and everybody here knows Veronica. And she had a lot of great insights on some of the numbers that I was not privy to. So yeah, there's all sorts of ways you can slice and dice things and rationalize things.
And I think, the DEIB plan takes this commitment of the city and put some accountability, boxes to that we're gonna be looking at in the next few years.
Well, I think that's a really good thing to highlight of the accountability of what we said in the plan was we were gonna do a survey and we were gonna try to get best available information that we could on, how different demographics responded to this question. And so this is, again, the baseline of starting that process. And so another activity that you all helped identify as part of our strategic plan is in progress now.
Yeah. And we're looking for the increases, the increase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 years from now.
Okay. Right, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanna bring the mouse back over here.
Yeah.
Commissioners report. Any commissioners have any reports?
Well, since Commissioner Hedgewood and Veronica aren't here, I went to the Chambers event last Wednesday, mostly because it was the BIPOC business kind of roundtable, but they were also talking about the upcoming FIFA World Cup in 2026. And so they were talking about doing things to kind of highlight the community, talking about all of the people that'll hopefully be coming into the community, and getting some things kind of ready to highlight the area. So like fun zones in the Lacey Olympia area. So that was one of the things that they were discussing. Both Veronica and Commissioner Head were there as well. So I thought maybe they'd be here to talk a little bit more about it. I wasn't prepared to chat about it, but yeah, that was pretty interesting. Seeing as though we're gonna have people from not just within here, but outside of the country that'll be coming in to wanna watch the games. We'll be having stuff played here as well as in Mexico and in Canada. So it should bring about opportunities for revenue and tourism and all of that.
Yeah, we
having
will
to
have like
visit.
9 different cities.
Yes.
In Washington,
Mhm.
kind of like a game going here, Vancouver.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm looking at maybe joining that board to kind of help them kind of figure out what to do and how to best highlight the area.
Missed what kind of games?
Like
FIFA World
the
Cup,
World football,
soccer.
soccer, yeah.
Soccer.
Yay, soccer.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And then also this week too, I am going to community garden type of thing downtown Olympia at Rebecca Howard Park on the 28th. They're gonna be talking about opportunity for a new community garden kind of out in that area. And so they're having a steering committee on Thursday. I'm gonna be attending that, so.
Interesting.
So I'll give us 1, 2, 3, 4 community gardens in the area. I just found out about 2 more, so.
Had a thought, I think it would be nice to have somebody like the Hispanic Roundtable come and do a presentation for us, kind of see what the community's, the temperature here is, what we talked about having a forum with partnering with them. I don't know where that's at, but just getting more information about what's going on in the immigrant community now, especially the Hispanic community, and how we might help or the city might help.
I'll be able to give you a more definitive update on a timeline for our next community forum here shortly.
Okay.
I just want to recognize too that in, I believe 2 emails ago in follow-up, I did provide some information from Thurston County, that Thurston County put together on knowing your rights. And so that is available as a resource for all of you in your emails.
What about the sanctuary city stuff, which is becoming a hot button topic in the current climate? I know that Ferguson got a letter from the administration about us being a sanctuary state. Do we have any follow-up or anything regarding that? Whether it's immigrant community or LGBTQ. I mean, I can see them easily kind of going after so many other things. So, yeah, that might be something we may want to look into. What can we do?
Well, there was some disturbing news out late last week about the closure of the YWCA due to lack of funds.
Downtown.
1 week they're celebrating the 85th anniversary of being in the community. The next week, they have to issue a press release saying due to shortage of revenues, resources, they're having to cease all operations and close their doors. And as a longstanding nonprofit in the community, I think we need to just kind of be aware that I think it's just the first shoe to drop. The Y is the first one to have to do that for lack of funds to keep all of their programs operating. But right now, they're out trying to raise funds to just keep 1 staff on board for 3 months. And you just can't run any kind of operation on volunteer dollars. But I don't know if that's a signal being sent for other nonprofits that are serving critical elements of our community. When you look at the dwindling dollars coming into United Way in Thurston County and all the other kind of organizations that's relied upon federal money, state money, the closure of the Y, I think, really sends a signal across the bow that we can prepare to see many, many others fall by the wayside for the same kinds of reasons. But I mean, it's just, I don't know how long they've been in dire straits, but on the one hand, come celebrate with us our 85th anniversary. On the other hand, sorry folk, but we're having to close the doors for so how many other critical service providers in our community might be in a similar situation that we just don't know about yet?
Yeah,
Remains
SCORE,
another.
SCORE is one of the, wide network, really wide, it's nationwide. Have you guys heard of SCORE? They are nonprofit helping business owners. They give one-on-one mentorship, various workshop. They are, SBA is cutting funding for them. So they are also in the verge of, but they are trying to stay based on contribution, donations and so forth. But they are volunteers to begin with, but there's always overhead, like running website and so forth. So, and we also heard about the stop funding of the English as a second language education for those. I don't know if that's going to be, when it's gonna be effective, but we heard that too. So that's gonna be huge.
Well, I'll tell you,
Yes,
as, as the chairman of a nonprofit, we've seen sea change from the beginning of the year to the beginning of the administration and all things that have unfolded in the cutting of funds, across the board. There are other nonprofits that we've worked with that have shut their doors because of lack of funding. The various foundations that, fund nonprofits have had huge cuts and the funds are just not coming forth anymore. It's a huge struggle. One of, my friends works with foster care. And that program has had huge cuts to where foster parents are having to pay for things that, services and other things that they were getting before because of the, lack of funding, the cut in funding. So across the nonprofit, arena, it is really tough out there. It is really hard out there now, and so many of them are disappearing. Just can't survive. Having 100% volunteer organization, helps us to string along, but you still have to have funding for the programs you run and to have impact on the community and those you serve in the community. It takes money to do those types of things, and without that, the community members are gonna suffer. The lower income people, the youth in the community, others, the elderly, whomever we're serving, they're suffering because of the lack of funding and the inability to provide services.
And that's why it's so vital to have community sustainability. I mean, that's pretty much why I'm looking at the community, the tool library. Cause I mean, if worse comes to worse, if you can get some seeds from somewhere, if you can get some dirt or education on how to use a tool, how to, plant a garden, how to grow something. I'm learning myself slowly being a first time gardener, but it's working, it's tiresome, but it's something that we could do to help one another when we've got to sustain some kind of way. We can't have money to, asking people for money all the time. If that doesn't work, then why can't we have a seed share program and share seeds and share food and all of that? So
Commissioner Jackson and I have green thumbs, so.
I do now too. I do now too.
You know, it brings about a discussion about equity to another whole different level.
Mhm.
And we've talked about equity religiously for the last 4 years and trying to get equitable whatever. And then for communities all over the country, we aren't an exception. When you read articles about the entire Head Start program
Mhm.
being cut, being eliminated, you know. I mean, I'm just using that as an example, but the entire Head Start program just being wiped out. The implications for equity, you know, it's a nightmare. So I just think as we see these stories begin to unfold, that we can't just put them aside, oh, that's the YW, you know. No, it's a signal. It's an indicator of the wellness of the situation. So I just was just so saddened to read about the why, but knowing that it is not limited to the why. The why was just the first that we know about, that we know about. So I don't know what we can, there's nothing we can do about it, but I'm just saying it raises the discussion on equity at a whole different level, given the federal administrative decision-making that's going on. It's just horrible. But, you know, the whole idea there is they don't want any discussion on equity, no discussion on diversity, no discussion on inclusion. And,
Removing things, as I was talking in my inspirational, removing things.
and so what we see happening right in front of us, is an effort at ethnic cleansing. And we gotta come to grips with that. And, what, 200 and some days into this administration, in a 4-year administration, what's gonna be left by 2029? So, all the efforts to dissolve any DEI all over the country, we as an equity commission really have to be paying particular attention to the stuff that's going on, because, you know, we can sit around this table and talk about strategic plans and all that all we want to, but the world is just, the country is just, you know, and we don't know what shoe drops tomorrow or next week or next month. Every day is another, you know, like, well, it can't get any worse. Well, it just got worse, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just very troubling and bothersome for the work we're trying to do. The context and the environment in which we're trying to do it has completely changed. Completely changed. And so I just, it's not a commissioner report per se, but you know, misery likes company, right? So I don't want to be the only one miserable about what I'm reading and hearing, but it affects us all. I don't care who we are, you know, it's just a scary nightmare. And with us about to launch another school year, the families that are impacted economically, oh, it's just scary. It's just scary.
And
You
the
know.
fundraising is not always gonna be there. I mean, the funds, we're paying taxes for, you know, the revenues that are being clawed back, but now that place has to also rely on those same people to fundraise. It's just, it's a catch-22.
Fundraising isn't the key.
No, it's not.
People just don't have the funds to put forward to keep
All of
these
those
programs
places.
going. That's such a Band-Aid approach, but that is not a solution. That is not a solution. We already had shortages of quality childcare, you know, all over this country and in this community. And when you cut out the entire program of Head Start, where there were hundreds and thousands of eligible children for Head Start that couldn't get in it to start with. But anyway, I could go on, but you guys get the message. We're all in this misery together. But equity, diversity, inclusion, those have become nasty words to some people. They like what they're seeing. And so we've got to try and figure out how we sustain ourselves as an equity commission as we're looking at our community. You know, does all of our hard work for the past 4 years just go down the drain? You know, I don't have the answer, but I'm bothered by the whole thing. Really, really bothered by the whole thing.
Yes, what do you think?
Well, I was in a meeting last week before like the YWCA like emails and notifications all got sent out. And I was kind of one of the people who was hearing about like from the person themselves. Cause it's not just like the YWCA that's getting cut, cause you also need to think about who's relying on the YWCA. So then all those nonprofits who are relying on the nonprofit, like they're losing so many smaller things too. But as for what you can do to help, I don't know if they're still doing it, but as of last week, if people have time, there's volunteering at their closet, cause they have a closet that provides business clothes for people. So that's just something that helps in a way.
Community is gonna become even more important.
Yeah.
In this time. And it puts strain on local government, so.
Closet, what are they collecting?
It's called Kathleen's Closet. I don't know. I think it's in Olympia. I assume it's downtown, but I'm not sure.
I think it's at the White
Yeah, you
House.
volunteer there and you sort through their donations and it's run by volunteers. I don't know if they're still accepting donations, especially with, you know, there being one employee. But I know that was something that was brought up I asked if you can't help financially, like what's something else you can do? And they were just saying you can email, if you go on their website, there should be the information of who to email. So.
Something as basic as food. We run a sizable food pantry at our church and get donations from Northwest Harvest and all this stuff. The food just isn't there anymore. The workers at the food bank at our pantry to go pick up weekly like they used to. But it doesn't, but the lines waiting on Saturday morning to get into the food pantry's gotten longer and the supplies inside have gotten shorter. So we've seen it already.
Same as
Sorry, but we don't have any of that. I'm sorry, but we've emptied our shelves for the day. You know, I mean, we're not talking about the future. It's happening now. Something as basic as food. So anyway, that's where we are.
Okay, yeah, I guess we'll move on. So, director's report?
Chair, before I do go into my director's report, I do want to highlight that this is Kieran's last meeting. I know we talked a little bit about it at our last meeting, but I just want to express my appreciation, Kieran, for representing the Lacey Youth Council on the Commission on Equity, for coming to these meetings and providing your insight and your perspective and helping with the planning of our DEIB summit. So just once again, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll be around. I'm still doing the DEI summit. So I'll see everyone everywhere, I'm sure.
And there's an opening on the commission.
Please apply.
Better apply.
I might make a comeback.
Yeah. Well, that'd be really nice.
Uh-huh.
I've had fun. I 100% do it again.
Oh, good.
Great.
Good.
We'll make sure to play that statement at our Lacey Youth Council orientation, which is tomorrow. We're really excited to be bringing on 15 new youth council members representing all of the public high schools, and then we have one homeschool student as well. And so we're really happy and excited, and I know they're gonna be working towards a youth summit themselves over the next year, and we're doing that also on kind of an every other year basis. And so they'll be working towards that, meeting with our other youth councils in the area, and also we'll make sure that they get scheduled to come to the Commission on Equity at a future date. So more to come, and we'll shortly have a new representative, but thank you again, Karen.
Yes, so much.
The first item I have on my director's report is a 2025 retreat update, and so I'm gonna pass out this handout right here. And what it has is it's got our draft agenda for the day, and then it's also got some draft ground rules as well. Just thinking about leading up to the retreat itself, want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to read through the ground rules. And then we'll start off the retreat by just kind of seeing if there's any edits or updates that need to be made to the ground rules for us to have a successful retreat. So please take some time over the next couple of days, take a look at it, read through it, let me know if you have any questions or comments, and then we'll have a group discussion and kick off the retreat. One of the big elements of the retreat is we are gonna be joined by Leilani Sue, who is our Human Resources Director. And so I know I've been in contact with you all about this, and she has as well. So if you haven't already, please make sure to take your Clifton Strengths survey and schedule a time to debrief with Leilani on the topic. So that way you can be prepared as we enter the retreat, because one of the things I remember hearing from you all is you wanted the ability to, number one, have some time to connect. And so I wanted to make sure that that was part of the retreat, of just being intentional and bringing people together to learn more about one another. And then also how we work together as a group. And so that's really what the Strengths Finder survey is to understand what are your strengths and what do you look for, what do you need to be better collaborators. And I think it'll help the work with the group, but also help me understand too, and the rest of our staff, as we're presenting you all information and topics in the future. So that'll be a kind of core element of the retreat is building those relationships and learning more about each other's strengths. And then from there, the idea would be that we would jump into a kind of reflection, but not just reflection, thinking about what are the next steps? How do we want to keep working over the next year plus? And how do we move that momentum forward? And so we'll be doing a couple of exercises on that, in particular, what we call a SOAR exercise, so looking for strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. Being accountable, looking over those results, and then setting some priorities for us to focus on within the framework of the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan. And then finally, kind of taking a lunch. We'll make sure there's gonna be breakfast and lunch, so please come hungry. We'll do a report out next steps, and that's generally kind of the concept of the retreat. And so I just wanted to see if there were any questions, comments, or there's things that are missing that we want to make sure that we highlight. I do know that we have, kind of a short period of time together, but we want to make it as impactful as we possibly can.
Now, where is this at again? Sorry.
This is great, and I did not put this on here, but it is on the invite for you all. So we are actually gonna be having it at the Lacey Veteran Services Hub. So, twice in 1 year, we get to go over there. That's a kind of a great start. And so we'll be there from 9 to 1 p.m.
I'll bring cake. It'll be my birthday the next day, so I'll bring cake.
Okay.
Oh. Do we have an overall goal statement of any kind that we hope to? We come to 1 o'clock, the retreat is ending. What do we hope to achieve by this gathering? So that as we're reflecting, we can say we met our goal for today. We only began this conversation, and obviously we got to continue. Do we have an overall goal we want to achieve for having come together? We can't come together often, so we've got to really, chime in there, just so that we've got something to kind of guide us. We want to have fun and all that kind of stuff, but did we achieve our goal that we set out and setting aside this time? I'm asking the question, really.
Sure. And I would, love some insight from the commissioners, but I think the two things that I really saw is building that connectivity, or heard, I should say, is building that connectivity and then looking to what are the priorities moving forward? What are some of the focus elements? And so to me, that was kind of what I envisioned being the big
Okay.
takeaways, but happy to hear if there are other thoughts and things we should be considering from the commission.
Community building.
The visioning and the moving forward.
I also like the fact that we can reflect, we can vision, and we can get together in person and just get to know
Yes.
and discuss
Connect.
and connect. And kind of be on the same page and see where we kind of go together as a group.
Moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about all kinds of challenges that we face. I mean, they're like really tough challenges. What do we do in the midst of all that? And then all the work that we have been doing for the last 4 years, and what does that mean, kind of thing. I thought that this would be a good opportunity since we got together in person.
Right.
Actually setting a time together where we see face to face, so.
Our connection activity is only 20 minutes, but something that I think is valuable and we might think about it is we're a diverse background. We have very different life experiences. And those life experiences mirror people in our community. So in our focus groups, we've heard a lot, but when we have the trust that we can be personal with each other, and I could share what it is to be a lesbian trying to adopt a kid, something that there will expand our heart feeling about our communities. It's just
Just exercise.
how, not a what's your favorite color or whatever, but kind of personal. I'd love it to be personal.
So speaking to that, kind of the whole reason Shannon, I spoke to it earlier is I still don't know any of you.
Yeah.
So that's the premise, is to get to know you guys better. And then speaking to what Annie said is understanding your guys' intersectionality and how we represent the community. With our different intersectionality.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and
that's really
having.
true.
Go ahead.
Sorry, that we are not really supposed to get together off-site, like more than 2 or 3, right? So we have not done that. So we don't really, I know about, any little bit, and I know everybody a little bit, but I don't, have we really like, got together? So I think that really
Yeah,
needs
so
to
that was
be-
my main takeaway, speaking to that.
And I just want to highlight too, and I think it's a really good point that connects with both of what you're saying is, it says connection activity 20 minutes, but a lot of Clifton's strengths is going to be connecting with each
Yeah.
other as well. So I just want to highlight that. And then also, lunch will be doing another activity. And so there'll be multiple activities for kind of a connection, whether it's one-on-one or in a group.
Yeah, we'll be connecting all day.
Yes.
But let me ask you a question about the Clifton strengths. But we're individually doing this survey. And I don't know how it works and what's the Gallup process. But is there some way that they're all overlaid with each other?
Yeah.
So when you complete it, she'll, Leilani,
Mhm.
we'll go through and show you the overlay of how we all stack up against each
Yeah,
other.
where's your strength and everybody's strength in a bigger
You know,
picture?
your number one answer or number one
Yeah, I
strength
saw mine,
versus,
not
versus
but
someone
I was
else's.
just curious how they'd all be folded together. But-
Yeah.
I think I saw that.
Leilani does that.
Yeah,
And
she
then
did
she'll-
show.
Okay,
Oh, she did show like a giant table that kind of relayed, and you can compare 1-to-1 or the
Okay.
entire group, and so. I think she did mine and Veronica's, and we had, some polar opposites in some answers. But,
okay.
Yeah, and so part of the discussion too with that day is to go over together as a group, like those results and to see how we would approach certain circumstances differently to understand what those strengths are from each of the group. But there's also gonna be an opportunity to do a deeper dive with a commissioner too. So there's gonna be group work and there's gonna be kind of one-on-one activities. And Leilani is also gonna go over how we're using this at the city, because we're also doing this with all of our departments. And so using it as a tool, so she'll be able to tie that into some of the work that Human Resources is doing on developing not only, our leaders, but also our just organization as a whole. So if we can find those strengths, we can work better together.
yeah, I'm
Good.
gonna steal that idea. That's awesome. After having completed, I was like, this is awesome. We'll borrow
borrow this.
Yeah,
Still.
yeah, I've done it before and I haven't changed.
That is very surprising, and I'm sure Leilani will love to talk to you about that.
Not a lot, but there are a couple. And over the years, I used to be like way up here, then now I'm in the middle of everything. I'm like,
Oh,
either
no.
way. I lost my
You settled
personality.
down.
Well, and I think that's just a really good thing to highlight too, and Leilani's gonna go over this, is it's not one thing is better than the other. All of these are strengths. And it really helps a team if you do come from different approaches and, just understand what other people's strengths are. So just keep that in mind.
I like the name of the survey personally.
I find that I can, when I was working outside of working for myself, I found that I needed my bosses to always be the opposite of me. I'm more reserved and, I wouldn't be the person to go and confront somebody. That would be their thing. I'd be more of the helper type of thing. I'm not the
Hard to
type of
believe.
person. I know. I'm not that type of
You never
person.
know.
I mean, my husband's a total opposite of me, so that makes sense.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the retreat. Yeah.
Right, so that brings me to my second item, which is the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion and Belonging Advisory Board Regional Meeting. And so a update is we will be hosting this September 22nd. So that is our typical meeting date. So just for everybody's awareness. We have invited Thurston County, the City of Olympia, and Tumwater and their advisory boards and staff to attend. And it's going to be held at the Thurston County Fairgrounds in the Expo location. So we're doing this off-site.
Not the atrium.
Not the atrium. Nope.
Okay.
We had inquired about meeting spaces and they thought this one was the best one for the size we were looking for and availability. So I don't know if they have another event going on in there.
What was it, not the atrium, but the
The fairgrounds, yep, at the Expo Center.
Expo building, yeah.
And the meeting is going to start at 6 PM, so slightly different than our typical meetings that start at 5:30. So 6 PM to about 8:30 PM. And what we have right now for the draft agenda is to have, again, something I heard from you all, is just having a connectivity time with your peers in other jurisdictions to be able to get to know them better and to kind of understand, what they're doing. And then we're gonna get a report from the executive director of the Thurston County United Way on ALICE data.
Yes.
So setting up the context of what's going on, nationally, doing a deeper dive into Thurston County as a whole. And then Chris is even working on breaking down the data a little bit more to understand our different communities. So whether it's Olympia, Lacey, or Tumwater, or the county as a whole, to kind of understand where we're at. So she'll be going over and giving a presentation, which I think will serve as a really good kind of level setting of just where the community is at today as we're continuing to think about the work that you all are doing on these advisory boards. And then from there, transitioning to a first kind of just a report out and update of what the jurisdictions are working on, and to then kind of do a crosswalk exercise to think about where can we work potentially together in the near future and what that can look like. So that is what we have right now. Again, September 22nd, 6 PM to 8:30, and we'll start pushing this out on all of our channels to get the information out there. It'll be open to the public, but it'll really be an opportunity and a time for you all to connect with other advisory board members from the different jurisdictions.
I'm so glad Chris was available and consented to do this.
Yeah.
You met her and talked to her?
I talked to her last week and got an introduction into ALICE data, and I think it's gonna be a fantastic presentation.
Was I right?
You were right, absolutely.
That's great.
She's like, no, not that. No. I mean, on top of everything else, Lord have mercy, here we go.
Yeah.
This community survey reminds me of the community survey that they did in Olympia, and it would be really interesting to have that social justice and equity guru talk to us, maybe not this time, but another time. And what are they doing with that information? Like,
How they're using that data?
yeah, how they're using that, and then it might help us inform us how we can use our data. But it was some disturbing news in that one.
If we could request of the Olympia group, if they, for this meeting, if they would share copies of the research report. that they had done.
Yeah, so just to clarify, you're talking about the discrimination report, I just wanna make sure I'm on the same page, yep, and I know you all
It's
have.
different than this one.
Correct,
Mhm.
but they've also recently done a community survey, which is why I was just seeking the clarification, but we can certainly reach out to Olympia and see if we
Yeah,
can get a
they had
presentation
some
as part
real
of that.
specific questions on
Because
the
that other one,
discrimination
that
one.
consultant firm did on the race relations and discrimination,
Mhm.
it was more regional than just Olympia.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot that we out here in Lacey and the northeast
Oh, I didn't
part of the
realize
county
that.
can benefit without having to repeat
Yeah.
that whole piece of research. So to share that report with us,
Yeah, with an idea of later.
later
a
on,
next
yeah, but at
meeting or
least
something
to,
to pull,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
discussing.
it was a pretty big research report they had done, paid pretty good money for it.
Yeah,
But we can all learn from some of the things that research showed up.
We can definitely reach out, and just as a reminder, I've sent previously the link to the video where that was presented to the Olympia City Council, so in the meantime, you can also just get some background and context by watching that.
okay,
Great.
maybe could you send?
I can absolutely
Yeah,
send it
yeah.
again, yep, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
And that concludes my report, Chair.
Well,
Anything else, anybody? So then if there's no other business, I adjourn the Commission on Equity meeting on 7:40.